One of the things I get asked the most is how I built the characters that I write. In particular, lately I've been hearing a lot about Allie from night school and how I came up with the idea for this character. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about character building, basically, and just very briefly. This is going to be a short one, and sort of how it worked for me. So here we go. So Night School, as you all know, was my first book, and I had not taken any classes in how to write books. I'd done one creative writing class back when I was in university, and I hated it. So I didn't really pay attention. I was just panicking the entire time about people reading my terrible words, and couldn't wait to get out of there. So I had no education to go by in terms of how you do this. So I am DIY when it comes to character building. I'm just going to tell you how I did it with Allie, and this is sort of like, I found like this works quite well for me. So, but everybody is their own. Don't think I'm expecting you to do this. This is just my way. So when I sat down to write Night School, the very first thing I did, and I remember this actually as if it were only yesterday. It's like it was a car accident. Like I have this like photographic memory of sitting down with a notepad and a pen, analog all the way, and writing my main character. And I knew from the get-go I wanted to call her Allie. Like before I even invented anything, and you can say, how did you know that, Christi? And I will say, I have no idea. Like I had the name before I had anything. I didn't have the last name, I just had Allie. And that was my beginning. Bits of her, probably because of this, I loosely based on the actress Allie Sheedy, who is in like The Breakfast Club and War Games. When I was like a kid, she was a child actress. Probably because of the name, I was like, oh well, I'll give her that auburn hair, that kind of like brown with red highlights hair, and I'll give her freckles, just a few, and but make her just a little bit of a tomboy. Like that was the beginning, and so like I literally just would write down scattering of freckles, pale skin, tomboy, and then build from there. So once I could see her face, oval, I knew her face was oval, and I literally sketched an oval face and kind of wavy, wild hair. Then once I had the look of her, and I figured she'd be more or less average height, more or less kind of an average girl, I wanted her not to look unusual or really distinctive in any way, because the distinctiveness was going to come from her, who she was, from her inside, from her heart. Then I could build up her background, and this is kind of how I build character. So for me, it is, what is she like? What does she do? What's her entertainment? What's her hobby? And almost instantly in my mind, I thought rebel, angry, bad girl. I think in part because I'd read a lot of books at the time about really good girls, bookish girls, girls who loved school, because writers tend to write themselves. And so I decided not to write myself. I was a bookish girl, if not necessarily a very good girl. And I did like school. So I decided to write somebody who wasn't like me. Like, she was more like one of my friends, who was Paula Rossellini. Paula, if you're out there, you in many ways inspired Allie. The only time I ever got detention was because of Paula Rossellini and how I loved her rebellious nature. So I kind of built a little of Paula, my high school friend, into this girl who was a rebel for reasons I never fully understood. Like, we weren't close enough that she would tell me. So understanding why Allie was a rebel, because this is all before I plotted the book. So not getting along with her parents, trying to upset her parents, trying to just get noticed, because most teenagers who go off the tracks because they won't, not all the time, but a lot of the time, because they want to be noticed, because they feel forgotten. Certainly that was an element of my own childhood. I knew people like that, and I was like that. If I was bad, it was because my mom wasn't around because she was so busy, and I wanted her to remember that she had a daughter. Like, it was ridiculous. You're such a narcissist as a child, at least I was. Like, it's like, why isn't my mom noticing me when she's working 12 hours a day? God, like, it's just it's ridiculous. I look back on child me and I'm like, grow up. But of course I would eventually, and here I am now, all grown up. So I'm writing that into Allie, and people do say, and like I've had people say to me, you know, like, oh, I just wanted to slap her at times. And I'm like, well, it's because you're a grown up. That's why, because you have already learned all the lessons that she learns over the course of 5 books. Like, not all of them, but obviously not all of us have, you know, gotten on private jets after having the daylights beaten out of us by our, like, enemy of our headmistress. But you know what I mean? Like, the lessons she's learning are universal lessons about friendship and honesty and betrayal and loyalty and love. And like, I wanted her at the beginning of that. I wanted her just to be still in the rage stage, so then I could work on that. But at her heart, and this is the other thing I've gotten, is like, why does she turn good? Why isn't she a bad girl all the way through? And that is because I honestly believe even Paula Rosalini learned lessons from life as she got older and quit being a rebel for no reason and became somebody who understood herself and no longer felt she had to rebel against people who weren't actually meaning her any harm. And I wanted Allie to grow. And also, there's something about being taken out of your safe place, or not your unsafe place in Allie's case, and put into a completely different environment that throws all of your natural instincts off, like your usual habits, it all goes. And so I was trying to play with that reality of what it would be like to be a rebellious teenager who's rebelling against your parents and suddenly doesn't have them around anymore. Like, the people you were trying to get to notice they're just not there, so there's no point in them noticing you anymore. Do you still act up in the same way, or do you find new things? So building all that in, I knew her parents were, for some reason, not paying attention to her. Why would that be? And that's when I came up with the idea of Christopher. And so, okay, that would be really devastating. So now she's traumatized. So now I'm building in trauma into this character. So she's quite traumatized. She's heartbroken. She's rebelling. In her heart, she's a good kid, but she is well off the rails. She needs someone to grab her. She likes loud, angry music. She does not like pop. She dyes her hair red to upset her mother. She wants a tattoo, but nobody will give it to her because she's too young. So she's thinking of giving herself one herself, but she doesn't. She wears really heavy makeup that she doesn't even like, just because it makes her look older, she thinks, and also because, again, with her mother, she wants to be somebody she isn't. She wants to be the bitter, angry young woman that she's heading towards before she's scooped up and sent to Samaria. So once I had that, then I could invent her friends. I could invent Harry and I could invent Mark as her like rebellious sort of ne'er-do-well friends, but also lovely ne'er-do-wells, because there's something marvelous about kids from broken kids really, who find each other and look out for each other even while they are breaking things. Like, that is something I also wanted to include, so that she would miss that when she was taken to a place of, where nobody had ever broken anything in their life that mattered. So building that, all of a sudden, then I could see out, who's she going to look for? What does she need in her life? She needs a best friend. She's a girl best friend as well as a guy best friend. Like, these are things I had to have as a kid. I always had male and female best friends, and most of my friends did, so I wanted to build that in and then play around with those relationships. So that's how I could then invent Joe, and I could invent Rachel and Carter and Sylvan and Lucas, and just like, because of what that character needed. So yeah, that was the beginning of everything, really. Once I invented Allie, then everything else followed. Like, what does this character need? And for me, because I'd never done it before, I remember ending up with like 3 A4 sheets of just description, really bad sketches, of the kind of clothes she'd wear, the music she'd listen to, food she hated, food she liked. She really likes toast. You may notice from the book. She loves tea, even though she's like a teenager. Teenagers love tea in England, it's a thing. And yeah, and what she really needs is attention and love and her brother back. And so there's the things that she can have and the things she can't have. And what does that do to her as she gets older? So yeah, that's how I do character, which is literally just hours of imagining this human being until I can see her walking in front of me, and then the rest happens. So that's Allie. Thank you for listening to me talk about Allie today. I hope you liked it. I'm gonna do another one of these and maybe a couple more like how-to character sketch things for you, if that's of any use, because I do get asked a lot about it and it's really fun to think about because it's been a while. And yeah, so hang out, watch the other videos, come back, subscribe so that you can definitely see the next one, because I think I'm going to do Carter next. So be here, ask me questions, tell me what you think in the comments below. See you soon.